Hello and welcome to Quick Take TA here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is July 24th, 2024, and we're looking at Bitcoin here on the daily, and we are following up from Monday's Macro Monday video where we did refine our chart for some of the areas of interest on the daily and the current upside move and uptrend on the daily. Now, Bitcoin, since we last spoke, has come down to test what I have here as the safe zone. So this zone is around 64,000 to 65.5. Now, this area we identified as the very first big downtrend of the range close to the wick high, and this was actually the closing lower high and swing high that preceded the higher low that kicked off the move to the highs at $72,000, where we did see the failure and then subsequent second very large downtrend of the range with new lower lows. So this is where we had our 56,500 current lower low, and then we have now the new lower low down there at 53,500. The key areas that Bitcoin's kind of trading in right now, you can see the green line overhead was the first big lower high of the range. Yes, there were lower highs in the context of this uptrend here, but once that uptrend was broken and we had the lower low, we had the first major lower high coming in at around 67.2 to 300, depending on your chart. And that was holding up. That was primary resistance, even when Bitcoin came down and put in the lower high at 64 to 65.5 and then had the higher low. It was the primary resistance on the way back up as well before getting to around that $72,000 area. Now, where Bitcoin currently is right on that lower high prior to the trend changing higher low here, and that's at 64 to 65.5. If Bitcoin does fall out of this safe zone or safe pullback zone range, then I would be looking for it to test its trending higher low right now. Yes, there is a swing lower, but it's all about the closing higher low and where that wick low or shadow or swing is coming in. And in this case, it is at around 63,200. Now, tests below $64,000 can come safely down to the next lower high of the prior downtrend now, and that's coming in at 62,800 to 63,800. But if we start to see closes below, 63,200, then we are most certainly going to see tests down into this high at around that 62,800. That would be a trend break, although that's not a death sentence by any stretch of the imagination. You don't want to see a lower high from there, right? You don't want to see a lower low and then possibly a lower high, back into overhead resistance or areas that it just lost. So that would be what you would need to look for, I would say, probably until we talk again on Friday. If we did see price begin to close below this high right here on a closing basis at 62,800. So basically, if the bears reclaim 62,800 on a daily close, then I would be looking down to this cluster of candles, roughly around $62,000 on the high side to the risk area here. This is the 60,300 area. You can give it some room, around 60,000 to 60,300. It's essentially where this higher low structure was coming in. We also had, a nice wick over here at around that 60,150 off of the higher low of the very first downtrend that went on to break the range before we had the second major downtrend of the range. So, it's a big area. Bitcoin tried to hold support there, and the prior downtrend popped up to around the $64,000 area that Bitcoin is currently in right now. And, this would be a candidate to be tested, of course, on any closures below, or even, it could get tested in lower term timeframes even without a close. But anything that loses around $62,000, I would be looking for $60,000 on the top side. And I would tell you, you want to see bulls hold that top side. Otherwise, we would be looking down further to the bottom side of this risk zone at 58,400. That's this big wick low over here. There's also 58,300 right here on the close open. This was now the prior lower low of the range before making the lower low down here at 55,800. But, we do need to see Bitcoin maintaining trend on the daily for it to have at least immediate moves back to the upside. We've had, three red candle days right now. This does show signs that this is going to be a reversal unless it can higher low its way out of this zone without closing below 60,200. So that is what to be aware of to the downside. Obviously, anywhere below 58,400, it's running the lows again. Anywhere down to that 56,500 area, and of course, if that's lost, it's running the lows and lower. 53.5 to 53,000 and $50,000. That target one of distribution that I've talked about so much before. If we did see daily distribution, it would get in that area and start to reaccumulate, maybe even head lower. But in this case, that's a ways away and not really the look that I'm getting from price right now. If we do see Bitcoin trading back above 65,500, I would still be looking for this the 67,272 over here. Above there, I would look for the run the highs zone now. Now, prior, I had this high side structure as the run the highs above here on daily closes, but you might recall that I mentioned something very specific. I want to see consecutive daily closes above here that lead into higher term time frame closes above 62.72 to then start actually running the highs. Otherwise, it was in danger of spiking the actual high side breakdown structure here. So we had that 62 or 67 200 to 300 area was holding up price at this highs where the double top came in around the $72,000 here. Well, when we saw Bitcoin come down, it had this nice reaccumulation complex low. Nice. It was lower lows on the closes, but higher lows on the swings. It pushed back up, and it needed to, even though it did fail to make higher highs and on a close and a swing here, we needed to see it hold the high side of the low structure at around $68,000. It did not do that. It did get a bounce, but then it failed at around $70,000 or just over $70,000 and actually put in the first lower high, and once we saw that wick low breakdown at $68,000 here, tried to hold the next area here at 67,272 on a close open, and then started to fall apart from there. So above 67,272, $68,000 or the first lower high of the downtrend here is what I would be looking for next, above that 67,272, which is coming at 68 to 70,000, 70,200 or so. Once you see Bitcoin closing above there on consecutive closures, if it hasn't already done it, I would look for it to actually get the highs ran 73,835 above there. 73 to 75 is a zone, 75 to 78, and then 78 to 80 in the mid to low 80s from there. And then we come back to it and check on the charts for further upside targets. Now, nothing wrong with running the safe zone right now. I don't have any problem with this price action as it stands right now. Let's go ahead and look at volatility metrics. I do believe that it's mean reverting right now. Yeah. So in looking at the Bollinger Bands here, we can see that Bitcoin did spike down into that upper first. So we talked about this on Monday. Basically, it needed to hang out and at least close a positive candle on Monday here above the 67,272 to really start working its way in. Otherwise, $65,500 to $64,000 was the downside area of interest. That was where the upper first is. And you can see that Bitcoin didn't close below it, but it got a close open coming into the Wednesday candle. Then it closed below it, and it closed inside of the 65.5 area, thus fulfilling the criteria to start lowering our target down to $64,000. So that's currently where things are. And I did mention I wanted to see the basis band on the daily start to get above the high over here, this lower high of the prior downtrend that's coming in at 62,800. It's roughly there. It's almost around this wick low here at the 62,400. It's about $100, $150 lower than that, coming in at that 62,250. So this is actually okay if Bitcoin comes down here and tags it on a swing or a wick or a shadow. As long as you're seeing closes that don't violate the structure, we still have an uptrend, right? So as long as closes are coming in above 63,200, this low that also has this the swing low and the closing low here, Well, then we don't have a break of structure. Now, a break of structure of this uptrend is not a death sentence immediately. It's what develops from there. Then we have to either watch out for continuation to the downside or bounces to lower highs, right, for a possible trend change on the daily. So that is the next thing that we want to look out for. And this is going to relate to some of the higher term timeframes that we're going to get into. But first, I want to talk about something that has just occurred as of yesterday's closure, not today's closure. So we've got two closes in the books where we have the hash ribbons buy signal. So we had the capitulation event or minor capitulation in play, and then we finally got the buy signal. Now, I'm going to shock your eyes. We're going to Caprioli's site, so the screen is going to turn white. Hope you're not in a dark room. I don't mean to sear your eyes, but here you go. I had previously talked about this on Monday, and this is the Bitcoin production cost, and I noted that Bitcoin was still in a capitulation phase, but we're likely to see it exiting that capitulation phase because we could see that production cost and miner cost, so the electrical cost rather, basically the baseline electrical cost to run miners or mine Bitcoin is at around $42,500 right now. And we have the production cost at around $60,000 as it currently stands. And Bitcoin was not only trading above that area in terms of its price, but also its miner price. Now, miner price has dropped. It was at $69,000 when we last looked on Monday. But because miner price and Bitcoin price is above overall production cost, we were looking for that metric to update, that hash ribbons metric to update, because basically miners are back in profitability. Yes, it's not exact, but miner price and actual spot traded price is back above the total production cost here, which is an end of capitulation signal. Now, when you see this, and I did note this, is you see the sharp decline. This typically comes post halvings. So you'll see the sharp decline in operational cost, basically, or full production cost, and then the electrical cost at a sharp angle. You'll notice that we saw this back in 2020. So post-halving, we had the big move up in electrical cost, sharp drop-off of electrical and production cost. Bitcoin gets above it, comes back into the production cost side, and then goes on the run. The time that you see this before that wasn't just right after the halving. We're fairly close to the halving in comparison to what happened in 2016, where it spent an extended period of time just hugging the electrical cost on the way up here. So, but you see the sharp fall in the production cost here coming into February of 2017, and the electrical cost subsequently dropping. So when you see electrical price dropping very sharply, so does full total production cost. This is very typical of post-halving cycles here for Bitcoin, and we've only got a few, but it seems to be playing out almost exactly as it has in previous cycles when it comes to post-halving production cost and drop-off, which is a fundamental thing that should stay pretty consistent. So ending the capitulation doesn't necessarily mean price is going to go up. Everybody's like, oh man, price is selling off and it's Bitcoin Nashville. Well, I mean, the Bitcoin Nashville event doesn't it isn't necessarily mean that everybody there is buying Bitcoin, right? And it just so happens that Bitcoin Nashville was falling on, what was already looking like an extended bounce on the daily to break its prior downtrend and create a nice uptrend on the daily. And you might recall, we were already looking at things looking kind of extended, on the daily for momentum coming into this event or the start of Bitcoin Nashville. $67,800, almost $68,000 would turn that back to the upside. Looks as though we're looking at some further downside pressure, maybe some bounces on lower term timeframes. But the key thing to remember here is, while the daily wasn't an uptrend, if you've been watching for a little while, you know that the 2-day, 3-day, 4-day was only in a trend break. So when looking at the 2-day, we had just a trend break come in. So we had the actual rise up that took out this high, breaking the downtrend, and now we need to see either a high or low come in around some key areas. This would be preferable. Obviously, I don't. This is not my bias right now, is that it holds 64. I'll be honest with you, from the daily perspective, but it absolutely can. Some of the lower term timeframes, which I'll just check on in a moment, but something like $60,000 would probably look a little bit nicer on the longer term timeframes to then build. We got a downtrend break and then a new structure being built with a higher low. Therefore, we would just need to break the in trend higher high in this case, and then go on the run to the highs and higher. That's what I would love to see. But essentially what we're looking for now is after a trend break, you're looking for higher lows or equal lows. Higher lows and equal lows do mean that Bitcoin can dive pretty far to make an equal low, right? So, I mean, this would be equal lows on a wick basis down here at 53.5, and of course on a closing basis just over 56,500 for the 2-day. Now, this is going to be the same for the 3-day chart as well. This certainly looks as though if it closes anything like this on the 3-day chart, this certainly looks like it's, wants to head down at minimum test around the $63,000 area to 63.2, which is very importantly, that is that daily trend break area. But again, not necessarily looking for a trend break on the daily to be a death sentence. This was a downtrend break, same deal, breaking this this lower high here at that 63.8 level, coming back to retest that from the 3-day time frame perspective. Nothing too crazy. The 2-day or the 4-day rather. So we did 2-day, 3-day, and then the 4-day. Again, this was a lower high. Now it was not a very pretty one, but it was a lower high. We didn't get a low set, but we definitely got a lower high set in terms of a swing and a closing lower high. So you will see that painted on most indicators as well. So we need to see higher lows from here. So that is something to watch out for. On closes today, we have already seen the 2-day. So, if it already put in its high on the 2-day, so we are looking for price to possibly fall further if it cannot hold $64,000. 3-day, is going to be closing with today's daily. And then 4-day is going to close with the next 2-day candle. So we'll talk about this on Friday. The 5-day, nothing too crazy going on here, but we will address a few things as it relates to what we were just talking about on the dailies. So let's go ahead and actually get this out of the way. Let's look at those longer term timeframes in terms of volatility real quick here. So throw on some Bollinger Bands. You can see how Bitcoin ran the lower second and third zone and then right back to the upper second. When changing trend on longer term timeframes and getting out of a prolonged downtrend like this, mean reversion back to the basis, or even where the lower first is not uncommon from a volatility perspective when it's trying to turn around a big expansion structure like this, get the overextension to the upside, and then come back down. And realistically, that's 58. That's likely going to be $58,400 to $60,000. That's going to likely be where that structure ends up. That would be this area right here, this risk zone right here, 60,300 in this case to 58.4. That is likely where we're going to see the lower first. So I would not be surprised, if you do start to see this area breakdown, and especially $62,000. We have some order block candles on the daily in here as well. So right around $62,000, you start to see that breakdown. 60K is going to be the target. Let's see, what else do I want to look at here? Let's get rid of the accumulation distribution chart. Let's follow up with the 2-day. Yes. And been doing a lot of talking lately, so I am actually not sick this time. My voice is just a little stressed. So, all right. Yeah, big expansion down, mean reversion, and honestly, if you're a bear, this was the area you wanted to see it fail. But if this holds around the basis, which is around $62,000 on the 2-day, very, very good. We can see the lower first is right around the 58,800 area. So it is kind of in between a support and resistance zone. That's our risk zone between 58.4 and 60,000, 60,300. Now, of course, that's all conditional. It's got to break down from the $64,000 level on the daily and specifically take out 60,300. on a closing basis to change that trend or get a trend break on the daily. I should say it wouldn't be a trend change, but a trend break. Yeah, and we see the bands kind of stepping down here with the 20 simple. You do want to see, man, I do want to see the basis hold up today here at around $64,000. That would actually be 64.3, 64.3, yeah, is kind of where I'd want to see today's 3-day close above. Otherwise, from a volatility perspective, door is open down to the lower first, which is $60,000. So, we can very quickly just throw that chart on just to show you the confluence there. Lower first is right there at the top side of the risk zone, and that's where I would want to see things, stop at for Bitcoin. When looking at the 4-day, we do have we had the upper first rejection. This is another thing, bears might be getting excited about because you get the expansion down. You didn't get really true expansion on the 4-day though. There was no closures really below the lower second, so it's not true expansion. It's just a range, which lower first on any closes below the basis at 64,600 in this case. We're looking lower first again. That's 60,800, almost 61K for the 4-day. Now, one of the main things that we do need to pay attention to, in addition to some of this stuff, evaluating trend, support and resistance, and then of course volatility here. So we do want to look at momentum on the daily. We did look at the daily at 875, almost 900. So basically 68K would turn momentum back up. So if Bitcoin does blast off to the upside, that would be something to watch out for. I would be careful. 2 days gonna turn down on any closures below 65,100. It still has a little bit of time to close the next 2-day candle, whereas we're getting a little bit of disagreement. So we have the 3-day still pointed up on closes above 56,400 to 500, which is that's this low over here. That was the first lower low of the range, 56,500 or so. So you do want to see, oh man, there's bearish divergence populating as well, which, this does kind of point to right back to the lows again. Not the lower lows initially, but right down to around $60,000. You can see bearish control zone. It's midline. We're looking at signal lines around 60,800. So, we're seeing that 60,000 to 62,000 on the top side there coming up a lot. And, we still need to see where things close. But 56,500, this will update at the end of today. I'll review that on Friday with you to see where things are. And then, of course, we've got 58,300 on the 4-day, which is just kind of getting started with its move out of the bearish control zone. 5-day, just to check on that again, that is at almost $58,000. And the weekly will turn up. We will review this on Friday as we head into the weekend. But 62,150 is going to be the number that needs to be closed above for the bulls here to shift the weekly initially. We would need to see an additional weekly close to get both the K and the D read pointed back to the upside in a bullish manner. So we would need to see closes above 62,150 by the end of the week. That would shift momentum on the weekly just ahead of that bearish control zone down here. And then we would want to see that followed up with another weekly close above that pivot. So we will talk about that later this week. I probably missed stuff that I wanted to talk about, but I've been talking for a while. Quick Take TA, by the way, is about half the length of the Monday videos, which usually run between 40 minutes and an hour. We're a little bit over 20 minutes, almost approaching 25 minutes now. So I will share my chart here underneath the posts. If you want to see more charts more often or talk to me in the various servers, those communities that I'm tagging are the communities that you can find me in on Discord, and you can take a look at my analysis or ask me questions in those various Discords. So got New Bitcoin Order, Nat Monkeys, we've got Pepper Ordo Maxi, Extra Ordinals, And then we've got Ordinal Sigma X, as well as a few others, the Welsh community as well. So if you have any questions, you can always hit me up in the group chat there. But yeah, I will share this chart below. This will be something that you can reference. And I do suggest that you reference this chart, especially as the Bitcoin Nashville event is going on. It's usually these events tend to be, they always seem to occur around highs. Therefore, the kind of the sell the event kind of a scenario is always the joke. It's just timing, But either way, you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.